आत्मविचारणैकनिपुणं तद्धर्म संस्थापक लोकानां हितकारिणां त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण्यकरं राधा कृष्ण राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्दौ भजनामृतौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्दौ भजना नन्देन मत्तालिका वन्दे रूप सनातनं रघुजुगौ श्रीजी
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu.
Yes, Srimad Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
All glories to great Deva, glories to Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Everyone is welcome to today's SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class. Hare Krishna. So, Salika Prabhu, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen. And
yes, Prabhu, we can start.
okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
All right, Hare Krishna.
Om Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Naruttamam Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Udiraye Nasta Praisu Abhadrishu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloki Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Reading from SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st Canto, chapter 14, text number 40. The disappearance of the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord Krishna. So we read the Sanskrit text, synonyms, transliteration, and translation. SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st Canto, chapter 14, text number 40. Kasim Navit Atto Bye Bye Sabdat Ebi Amangalai Nadatam Uktam Atibya Asayayat Pratis Utram Kasim Nabiyato Bye Bye Sabda Dibi Amangala Nadaltam Uktam Atibya Asayayat Pratis Utram Kasim Nabiyato Bye Bye Sabda Dibi Amangala Nadatam Uktam Atibya Asayat Yat Pratis Rutam. Word for word translation. Kasit, whether, na, could not, abi ate, abi ata, addressed by, ababai, unfriendly, sabda adebi, by sounds, amangalai, inauspicious. Na did not. Daltaham give in charity. Oktam is said, Atebia unto one who asked. Asaya with hope. Yet what? But this Rutam promised to be paid. Translation. As someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you, could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? Purpose by English Laisi Bhaktivedanta to Swami Patita Pravanjaga Gosha Prabhupada. A Kshatriya or a rich man, a Kshatriya or a rich man is sometimes visited by persons who are in need of money. When they ask for a donation, it is the duty of the possessor of wealth to give in charity in consideration of the person, place, and time. If a Kshatriya or a rich man fails to comply with this obligation, he must be very sorry for this discrepancy. Similarly, one should not fail to keep his promise to give in charity. These discrepancies are sometimes causes of despondency, and thus, failing a person becomes subjected to criticisms, which might also be the cause of Arjuna's plight. Hare Krishna. It's a very short purport. Oma Gyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Chalakaya Shaksho Militam Jena Tasmae Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Tam Pitam Tam Saajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kakanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devim Davaneshwari Prishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mukankaroti Bhaktyalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripat Vande Sri Guru Ginatarinam Vancha Karpataru Ubhyascha Kripas Undubyas Ivascha Patita Nampa Vaishnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Kasim Nabiyato bye bye Sada Dede Atmangala Ai Nadatam Oktam Atibyaha Asayayat Pratisritam. As someone address you with unfriendly words or threaten you, could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? Hare Krishna. So we welcome all the devotees to this evening in Nigeria, SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class, afternoon, morning, some other places, part of the magnificent opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we welcome us to this most auspicious moment of life, I want to first and foremost offer my respectful obeisances unto Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The verse for today is SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st Canto, chapter 14, text number 40. My respectful obeisances to Srila Vyasadeva, who is the author of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Unto all the Vaishnava devotees, from the topmost to the greatest devotees of the Lord, from the past, present, and for all of those who are on this platform, this moment, listening to this most auspicious glorification of the Lord and his devotee, I pray at the dust of your lotus feet that in trying to render this service, I may be able to say something, remembering the instructions of the acharyas that will benefit myself and all of the listeners, which is the nature of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is such, as they describe, it's a ripening fruit of all fruit, because the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, from wherever one takes it, it is nectar, and it is beneficial not only to the reciter, but also to the listeners. Although sometimes we look at statements in the Bhagavatam that state that only a pure devotee can speak SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. But by the costless mercy of the spiritual master, coming down from the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Krishna, one who by dint of good fortune has come into this disciplic succession of those who are liberated, the pure devotees of the Lord, one gets opportunity to render such a wonderful service by birth, by qualification. We're in no way close to hearing these wonderful activities of the Lord and his devotee. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva, we will attempt to repeat some of the narrations that we've had from great authorities. So we're continuing today our reading from the 14th chapter of the 1st canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. We're reading text number 40, where Yudhishthira Maharaj continues to address his younger brother Arjuna, dear friend of Lord Krishna, on the symptoms that are manifesting in the ambience, in the facial expression of Arjuna. Although this verse seemingly is very short, but every single word in the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM can be discussed for a whole lifetime. Because in each and every word, there is an unlimited nectar that is hidden inside of it. What to speak about the whole of the text of a chapter of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. In the text we're reading, Yudhishthira Maharaj is addressing two major subject matter. the manifestation of expressions, mood that manifest in the life of a devotee when the Lord is not physically present or when the Lord is not present. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada focused on the second aspect of his question, talking about charity. So today we will speak on the text itself, spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj, addressing what happens in the life of a devotee with the absence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And later on, we'll try to explain our realization on the focus of Srila Prabhupada in the purport, talking about charity and duty. The most significant point that is in the text of today's verse, for me, because in every aspect of the reading of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM or any scripture or text, I like to relate more importantly to the application in our practical lives as a sadhaka in the part of devotion and service. Because that is what is key. Otherwise, it becomes some kind of story. It becomes some kind of egoistic exhibition of knowledge. One risks the tendency of becoming my pattern. Yeah. One's intelligence has been stolen, and one acts differently from what is read. So, the application for me in this text of Srimad Bhagavatam is the observation of Maharaj Yudhishthira in the manifestation of or what happens in the life of a sadhaka or a devotee when the Lord is not present. Because the most significant point in the life of a devotee is that, or a sadhaka in our life, is that having fallen into the conditional state of life, we are constantly experiencing few or maybe more of all what Arjuna is experiencing, which is catching the observation of Maharaj Yudhishthira. In the Bhagavad Gita, the reciter of the Bhagavad Gita to Maharaj Dhritarashtra, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, the last verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya, he said something very significant related to this observation of Maharaj Yudhishthira. He said that Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yatra Pato Danodara Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhuti Dhruvanariti Matir Mama. That what? At the end of all of the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya expresses that wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, morality. Sanjaya declared, this is my opinion. And that is exactly what Maharaj Yudhishthira also is observing here. He's observing it because the Lord has just finished his pastimes, his earthly pastime, and he just left. And immediately, what happens physically, mentally, in the whole of the life of Arjuna is what Maharaj Yudhishthira is observing and is asking rhetorically. Because he could see that the usual Arjuna, the dearmost friend of Lord Krishna, ambience, mood, everything has changed. So he's observing this. And this is what happens in the life of a devotee. And this is what happened in the life of a sadhaka also. Most of the time, of bhakti or in material life generally, people complain about all kinds of inauspicious signs. But the reason for those inauspiciousness is what Maharaj Yudhishthira is pointing our mind to in this verse. That the moment we see any unpalatable, unattractive, not admissible signs in our life, even while we're in devotional life, it is simply the manifestation, it is simply the expression of the fact that Lord Krishna is not present in that activity. Because when Krishna is present in our lives, in our devotional life, in any activity we're doing, as declared by Sanjaya here, everything will manifest that is auspicious. That is the greatest point that Maharaj Yudhishthira is pointing our minds to here. That as a sadhaka, the moment we start seeing, not just in our Arjuna, but in our devotional life, when things started going the other way around, it means strongly Krishna is not there. We should immediately start thinking what has happened. But to buttress this fact, to buttress this point, let us go to SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st Canto, chapter 19, text number 2, where King Parikshit also expresses what we're trying to explain here. Because someone could say, okay, Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying that to Arjuna. How is that related to me? But the fact is that Maharaj Parikshit is showing us, is telling us that for anyone who is actually worthy of being called a bhakta, his line of thinking should be in the mood of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying that Krishna is already absent. That is only why the reason why Arjuna is experiencing all of this. And Maharaj Parikshit also explained that although Maharaj Parikshit is a Parka, pure devotee of the Lord, but even when he was cursed by the young Brahmana boy, immediately in the 1st Canto, chapter 19, text number 2, he said, Duruvantatume Kritadeva Elanat Duratyayam Yasanam Dirigaat Tadastu Karmai Aga Niskatayame Yatana Kriyam Puna Eva Hada. King Parikshit is thinking, he said, due to my neglecting the injunctions of the Supreme Lord, I must certainly expect some difficulty to overcome me in the near future. I now desire without reservation that the calamity come now, for in this way I may be freed of the sinful action and not commit such an offense again. This is the thinking of Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit is confirming that this is not just Arjuna. It is not, these symptoms are not only manifesting in Arjuna because Arjuna is experiencing the disappearance of the Lord, but it's expressing to us that in all the devotees' life, in any stage of devotional life, whether one is a topmost Parama Bhakta, or one is a Madhyama Bhakta, a Kanishta Bhakta, or even a struggling Bhakta, Sadhaka Bhakta, who is practicing Sadhana Bhakti, the moment these signs manifest, the moment this inability, the moment unsuccessful endeavor is manifesting in our lives, the moment we can no longer chant Hare Krishna with a sweet experience, the moment we do the kirtan and we're not experiencing the bhava at whatever level we have, the moment we are running a project as a project manager and things started going the other way around, a devotee should start thinking, I must have committed some offense. Something has happened. Krishna is not here. That is what Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying here. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is saying that, and King Parikshit is confirming. He said, yes, this is what would only be the reason. And this is not just the two of them saying this. Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text number 8, Lord Krishna told Arjuna something very beautiful. In text number 8, he said what? Rasoham apsu kaunteya prabhas me sasi suruyaya pranava sarva vedeshu sapake purasham nirishu. The word we want to use in that verse is Purusham nirishu. Krishna is telling Arjuna, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in the ether. And finally, he said, what? I am the ability in human being. Meaning that what? When Krishna, Yudhishthira Maharaj just told us, by explaining the experience of Arjuna, King Parikshit has told us, and Lord Krishna himself is confirming that the moment that thing is not going right, Krishna is not there. Krishna has disappeared. Because Krishna, Purusham Nirishu, I'm the ability that makes it happen. Once it is not happening, it is an expression of the fact that Krishna is not present. Krishna has left. When we're worshiping the deities, we're not experiencing ecstasy. Krishna is not there. It is obvious. It is very clear. And we can see it in our own day-to-day life in devotional service. Because the ability to relate all of these texts, scriptural texts, to our present day lifetime, day-to-day life in devotional service is what makes us a successful devotee. Unless this relates to our day-to-day life, then we're not a devotee. Let us go further to buttress this fact before we move forward. In the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, we're celebrating the SRIMAD Shaturdasi in some few days. Today is Ekadashi, the day of Lord Hari. Tomorrow is Dwadasi. Day after is Triyodasi. And the fourth day, Sunday, will be the Shaturdasi, the day Lord Nrsimhadev appeared. There is something interesting that relates to this that we're discussing in the statement of Hiranyakasipu. In the 7th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, chapter 2, text number 10. When we read that verse from the first text, Narada Muni is explaining to Maharaj Yudhishthira still in that chapter of the Bhagavatam. Is narrating after Hiranyaksha has been killed, Hiranyakashipu was calling his demoniac friends and he was telling them what to do. And interestingly, he was saying so many wonderful things. I love the text before this, but before we go to that text number 9, the point I'm trying to relate to in this topic is this text number 10. We'll go back to text number 9 later. So, Hiranyakashipu said something very interesting. He said, Brahma Shatra Sameditam Sudaya Davamtapo Yajna Swadhyaya Vrata Danina. That what? He's telling his demoniac friends. He said, while I'm engaging in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahmanical culture and a Kshatriya government, These people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, and charity, destroy all the people thus engage in such activities. What is Inakashepu telling us? That the moment the Lord and his activities is checked, inauspicious situations start happening. So Inakashepu knows the signs. He said for him to be able to achieve his goal. When we look at the purport of that verse, Prabhupada explained very nicely how this kind of manifestation of all kinds of things happened. Furthermore, Sir Dave Prabhu, while he was giving lecture yesterday, he referred us to a beautiful verse. SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM 5th Canto, chapter 16, text number 25. It also relates to this verse because it's a continuation of the same topic. What is that verse saying? In that 5th Canto, chapter 16, text number 25, it is explained that the residents of the material world who enjoy the product of this flowing river have no wrinkles on their bodies and no gray. They never feel fatigue, and perspiration does not give their bodies. They are not afflicted by old age, disease, or untimely death. They do not suffer from chilly cold or scorching heat, nor do their bodies lose their luster. They all live very happily without anxiety until death. And the purpose Prabhupada gave so many explanations. That is where my attention is. Prabhupada said that the miserable condition of this material world can be corrected by a sufficient simple supply of milk, yogurt, honey, ghee, molasses, food, grains, ornament, breathing, bedding, sitting places, and so on. And Prabhupada goes further in that respect. And he explained how the modern civilization is in a bad state because of the lifestyle of killing animals. And towards the end of that purport of that verse, Prabhupada explained that all this kind of lifestyle that we're experiencing or that is permeating in the world today is not a real civilization. He said it's not human civilization. It is what? Passive or animal civilization. So in the ending of that purport of that verse, the Prabhupada explained that what? If people actually want happiness in this life and want to prepare for the best in the next life, they must adopt a Vedic civilization. In a Vedic civilization, there is a full supply of all the necessities of nature mentioned above. We're coming from Maharaj Yudhishthira addressing Arjuna. King Parikshit has told us. We add from Yakasipu that when the activities of the Lord is checked, what happens? And this verse also is confirming the statement. That what? That the moment the Lord is not present, activities of the Lord, according to the very scriptures, is not going on. Then all kinds of negative experiences happen. But then, before we go into the second point I wanted to discuss about, I want to summarize this discussion by bringing a philosophical angle to this topic. Someone could ask a question, but then Lord Krishna was present with Arjuna, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the 5 Pandavas, but they go through so many pains. They go through many sufferings. So one can then start arguing that, okay, even when Krishna is there, even when Krishna is present now, Krishna is there. So why is it that things are not going right? Because a philosopher can argue like this. Because the point we're raising here is that when Krishna is practically not present, when Krishna is not present, all of these things manifest. But somebody could argue, but then, no, Krishna was there with the Arjuna and the Pandavas, and they suffered like anything. That's a good one, right? But that also has been answered in the Uddhava Gita. And I'll share that conversation between Uddhava and Lord Krishna with us. We all know that Uddhava was a child, he was with Lord Krishna from the beginning. He would drive Krishna's chariot. He was always serving Krishna in so many ways. When Krishna was to send to the gopis of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna sent Uddhava. Lord Krishna is said to be what? Having the same feature like Krishna. In fact, you cannot, unless by the grace of the Lord himself, you cannot distinguish from Uddhava and Krishna. They were inseparable in all ramifications. But one interesting thing about Uddhava was that in the mood of a devotee, he never asked any wish or boon from Lord Sri Krishna. He never asked anything. So when Lord Krishna was at the verge of completing his pastimes in the incarnation of Lord Krishna, he called Uddhava and said to him, he said, my dear Uddhava, in this incarnation of mine, you know, many people have asked and received boons from me. They've asked so many things and I've awarded them accordingly. But you, my dear closest companion, you never ask me anything. Why? Why didn't you ask anything from me? Okay, I'm ordering you. Ask something from me now. You should ask me something. I want to give you something. Let me complete this, my lila, in this pastime. Let me complete it by satisfaction of doing something good for you, my dear friend, Uddhava. But Uddhava was listening to Krishna when he was asking him, he was laughing. And he said, from childhood, I've been observing you, Lord Krishna, also. You have observed that I've never asked you for anything. And he said, my question is that if I'm going to ask you for anything, I've been observing one thing that is unique about you. The disconnection between your teachings and your actions. I want to understand, because sometimes when you say certain things, when we look at the way you act, it seemingly are not correlating. He said, my dear Lord Krishna, he said, you taught us to live like this, but you yourself, you live like that. You act in a different way. He said, especially in the story, in the drama of Mahabharata, the role you played in your actions, I did not understand many things about it at all. I'm so curious to understand the reason for your actions. He said, if you want to give me any boon, I want to know that reason why you act like that. And this is going to show us how, even though when Krishna is physically standing before us, we may not be having the presence of Krishna. Krishna is away from us. When Uddhava asked Lord Krishna this question, Lord Krishna in his usual mind, he laughed. He said, my dear Uddhava, he said, what I narrated to Arjuna at the battle at the battlefield of Kurukshetra is glorified as Bhagavad Gita. The song spoken by me, God. He said today, because this is the only thing you have asked for me, he said, my response to you will be known and it will be glorified eternally as Uddhava Gita. Just like my conversation with Arjuna is glorified as Bhagavad Gita, my conversation with you today, my answering this your question will be so glorified, because I want to give you that benediction because you've never asked anything from me. He said, this is why I have given you this opportunity. He said, so therefore, my dear Uddhava, ask me without hesitation what you wanted to know exactly about these activities of mine. And Uddhava said, okay, then fine, Lord Krishna, if you're saying so, I will ask. He said, but before I go ahead, first you will answer me one question. Then I will ask my other question. He said, my dear Lord Krishna, Please tell me, who is a real friend? Tell me, who is a real friend of a person? Who can you consider to be your friend? Because why? He has accused Lord Krishna before. He said, you say something, you do something different. So I want to know, you tell me by your own mouth, what is the symptom of a friend? Who is a friend? And Lord Krishna answered him. He said, the real friend is one who comes to the help of his friend in need, even without being called upon. He who comes to your aid when you didn't call him at all, you didn't even make any gesture, but he sees that you are having difficulty, he comes to your aid. He said, that person is your friend. Ah, Uddhava said, this is beautiful. Then Krishna, which is coming to the cross of why we're narrating this story. So Uddhava now asked Lord Krishna, he said, you were a dear friend of the Pandavas. They trusted you fully. They trusted you as their protector from all kinds of difficulties. Krishna. And because you are Krishna, you are the knower of everything. You know whatever is happening, even before they happen. You know even what is going to happen. You have all knowledge. You are the supreme knowledgeable person. And now you are telling me with your own mouth, you give me a definition of a true close friend. Arjuna is your friend. The Pandavas are your closest allies. Then why, Lord Krishna? Krishna, why? Why did you not act as per the definition that you yourself have given now of a friend? Maharaj Yudhishthira, who is Dhamaraj himself? Why did you not stop him from playing the gambling game? Why? Why did you not do it? Even if you do not stop him from doing the game of gambling, okay, you know they're your friend, and you know that Dhamaraj or Maharaj is going to fail. Shakuni is going to defeat him because Shakuni is very cunning. Why did you not turn the game of the dice in his favor so that your dear friend will be helped? So your friend Yudhishthira and his brothers will win. You did not do so. At least, if you are not going to turn the game, if you don't want to encourage him in gambling, at least one thing you could have done was that what? You'll have at least saved him from playing the game of gambling, from him to lose his wealth, his country, himself, even at the end. Because Yudhishthira Maharaj, we all know the story. He continued betting until finally he bet himself after losing his own brothers. He did not only lose himself, he went ahead and even offered his wife, Draupadi, which is because of all of the drama of battlefield of Kurukshetra. He said you will have at least released him from the punishment from gambling. Or at least one thing you could do is that, okay, when the game is going on, because you are their dear friend, at least you will have entered the hall when the betting is going on. You do not do all of these options. He said at least when Duryodhana, when he was tempting Maharaj Yudhishthira by offering to return everything lost if he betted Draupadi, after he has lost himself and his brothers, Pandavas, it was luring him. He said, okay, if you have lost everything, but why don't you use Draupadi as a betting? At least, Lord Krishna, Abba, you just define what a friend is. You could have at least intervened at that point. With your divine power, you could have made the disc roll in a way that it will be favorable to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Instead, what do? You intervene only when Draupadi almost lost all her modesty. And now you claim that you gave clothes and saved Draupadi's modesty. How can you even claim this, Lord Krishna? After I've been dragged into the hall by a man and destroyed in front of so many people, what modesty is left for a woman that has been so embarrassed, that has been so dishonored in such a manner? He said, what have you said? Draupadi is your devotee. Why did you not save him? You are dear Krishna. Only when you help a person at the time of the crisis, when there is a need, only then you can be called a true good friend. If you do not help somebody, just like your definition, if you don't help the person at the time of need, at the time of his crisis, what is the use? Is this part of this your preaching of Dharma, religiosity? And these are not the questions of all of us alone. That's why I said, let us look at it in our own devotional life, what we experience. And when you would ever finish narrating, lamenting in this manner, Lord Krishna, in this Judah manner, he laughed. And he said, I will explain to you what you do not know. And the reason why I acted the way I acted. Although I'm the friend of the devotees, but sometimes you never know the intricacies of all activities because I'm Krishna, like you said, I can see everything. So when I act in a particular way, I'm acting based on knowledge, just like you have glorified me to be the knower of everything. He said, the nature of the living entity in the material world is that what? One must be able to use the gift of Krishna using his intelligence. That is why it is given. I have given this to the living entity so that it can ultimately use the intelligence to discriminate. He said what happened in the battle in the gambling hall was that Duryodhana, he used his intelligence. And Maharaj Yudhishthira, even though he's a devotee, he refused to, he defeated himself by not using his intelligence, devotional intelligence. And that is why he lost. And when he said that to Uddhava looked at him, he said, now, Krishna, you have started again. You get me even more confused. How can you say Maharaj Yudhishthira, who is Dharmaraj himself? How can he say he is not appropriately using his intelligence? Devotees also, we also do like this sometimes. We claim, I'm a devotee. I know the scriptures. Savadharma Paritya Dhyama Mekam Saranam Raja. We quote very nicely. Hare Krishna, I'm chanting the holy being. Lord Krishna continued to answer Uddhava. He said, my dear Uddhava. He said, while Duryodhana had lots of money and wealth to gamble, he did not know how to play the game of dice. And because he knows that, what did he do? He decided to use, even instead of betting directly with Maharaj Yudhishthira, he used his uncle, Shakuni. This is use of intelligence to play the game on his behalf. This is intelligent. He said, Dharmaraj or Yamaraj or Yudhishthira Maharaj also, you could have thought similarly and offered that I am his cousin, brother. I'm his dearest friend. You could have told Yudhishthira, okay, say Shakuni is fine, is betting on your behalf. Krishna, who is my best friend, my uncle, who also on his own bet on my behalf. But Maharaj Yudhishthira, he lost himself in ego or fear. Summarily, he is not using his intelligence. He could have called me that Shakuni is playing for you, Duryodhana. Krishna will play for me. And what would have happened? Think about it. If I and Shakuni had played the game of dice, you can tell, who do you think will have won the game of gambling? Can Shakuni roll the numbers? Or will I be rolling a number that will be defeated by Shakuni? Okay, let me tell you, I can even forgive the fact that Yudhishthira Maharaj did not include me in the game of gambling. He did not call on me to come and play on his behalf. He did not use his intelligence. But he made another blunder. And what is the blunder he made? When he was playing the game of blunder, and this one is very important, devotees, please kindly listen to this very well. And this is what we do most of the time. A similar narration is there in the book of Genesis with Adam and Eve, a particularly Adam, and which makes him to suffer. And Yudhishthira Maharaj played the same game of Adam here. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was playing the game of dice, Lord Krishna said, this is the greatest of his blunder. He was praying in his heart that I should not come to the hall, as he did not want me to know that through faith, he was compelled to play this game. He said, by his prayer, I'm the what? Bhakta Vasala. I'm tied by the prayers of my devotee. He tied me by his prayers and did not allow me to get into the hall. I was just outside of the hall. I was waiting for him. In fact, when he was not calling me, I was trying to come on my own. But through his prayers, he stopped me. He tied me with strong rope of bhakti. And I couldn't come in. Even when he has lost Bhima, Arjun, Nakula, Sahadeva, they would have helped him as his brothers. But what did they also do? They didn't help him. They didn't bring in intelligence that, oh, Yudhishthira, I think it is time to call Krishna. They didn't do that. What all of them were doing is what? They got overwhelmed by anger. And what were they doing, busy doing? They were cursing Duryodhana. They were lamenting over their fate. None of them remember to call me. We all are like this. When we have the challenges, which is the call for prayer to call for the presence of the Lord, we start either lamenting, or we curse our faith, or we curse some other devotee who we think is the cause. But Maharaj, you see that tied him, the brothers who could have helped him, they forget to call Krishna. They were just lamenting on their faith. He said, I was outside the wall, waiting for someone to call me through their prayers. Krishna said, I was waiting. And even when Bhima and Arjun, all of them were there doing this. And Draupadi was eventually brought. Dhritarashtra was dragging her. He held her head. He dragged her, practically dragged her to the hall. Even Draupadi forget to call me. But somehow or the other, by intelligence, she remembered me when Dhritarashtra was disturbing her. And when he was disturbing her, she gave up her dependence at that time. Only that time you remember, oh, I can't do this alone on my own. Then he called, hey, Krishna, hey, Krishna. He said, only at that moment, I got the opportunity to save the modesty of everybody. And immediately he called me. I reached immediately. I saved a modesty. So, my dear Uddhava, what is my situation in this situation? What is my mistake? What have I done wrong? You said I say something differently. I do something differently. There's actually a story of another Brahmana, but I will not say that because time is far going. And I think I've not covered the second point. So in our devotional life, we could make so many arguments. Maharaj has showed us that the moment this is not happening, we should immediately understand Krishna is not there. And there is no excuse for us to argue that, but Krishna is always present, and why is he? But he's supposed to be the friend of the devotees. So in this conversation with Uddhava, Lord Krishna nicely explained that by the prayers of Maharaj Yudhishthira, by the loss of intelligence of Bhima, Nakul, Sahadeva, and Arjun, all of them, instead of focusing on calling Krishna's presence, they were busy chastising, bragging, making vows how to kill the Kauravites. This is what happens to us in devotional life. I was thinking of saying the second story in this line, but time is not there. So let me just talk briefly on the focus of Srila Prabhupada in the purport. Prabhupada talked about duty and charity. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text number 5, I talked about this. He talks about the duty and the importance of charity. In text number 18, chapter 18, text number 5, Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, Yajnadana tapakarmana twadyam karyam evatat Yajnodanam tapastaiva pavanani manisinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed in this sacrifice, charity, and penance, purify even the great soul. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna, your duty as a Kshatriya, time will not allow us to go into all of those references. So many verses. In fact, the whole of chapter 2, of Bhagavad Gita is talking about, is basically talking about the duty of a Kshatriya. And Lord Krishna told Arjuna in several verses, you are an Aryan, and this is not befitting you. This is not befitting you. In the purport of the verse we are reading today, one who makes a promise is duty bound to fulfill them. This is the modesty that is expected, at least of a sane man. A rich man or a Kshatriya, or whatever we have, we should not deny people. So Srila Prabhupada concluded the purpose by saying that these discrepancies are sometimes causes of despondency, and thus failing. A person becomes subject to criticism, which might also be the cause of Arjuna's plight. Our experiences in life is as a result of what we actually do. So there is a saying that our future is determined by our nature. Our future is determined by our nature. In other words, our calling the presence of the Lord, our dutiful obedience to the injunctions in whichever class we belong to, is not determine our experience. That is the summary of this text we're reading today. I think I want to stop here because if I had to go into other thoughts, it's unlimited. Like I said in the beginning of this lecture, Srimad Bhagavatam is an unlimited ocean. And no one, just like Krishna is unlimited, every word in the Srimad Bhagavatam is unlimited. The verse we're reading today has about 7 or 6 lines of purport by Srila Prabhupada. But like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has told us, one word in the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a whole lifetime is not enough to explain it. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita alone, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of verses that corroborate the back of these thoughts that we're discussing. And even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think it's Madhya Lila. But let me stop here. There are so many references, like I said, but let us leave that so that we can allow for devotees to share their own thoughts, also to interact on this subject matter, and then let us enjoy the nectar more, because the interactions of devotees hearing and speaking Bhagavatam is the key to going back to God. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I pray that by your costless mercies, before I quit this body, I will be able to chant Krishna's name at least once. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srimad SALIKA Prabhu Ki Jai. All glories to your wonderful service.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Well, it's like you said, Srimad Bhagavatam is, well, we don't have the appropriate word to use. So the only word we can use is sweet, but it's actually more than sweet.
Yeah,
it's more than nectar. It's more than nectar. And some stories you were sharing about Krishna and Uddhava reminds me of how my biological mother, as a simple and low person as she was, before she prays to God, she would say, "Oh my Lord, you already know my mind. You know what I'm going to ask for, but I'm going to ask for anyway." So today's class tells me that she was doing the right thing. Yeah. So, dear devotees, if you have anything to say, please indicate that by showing your hand, and then you'll be asked to unmute to speak. Any question? Okay. I have a question, as usual, Prabhuji. My question is, as you were saying, Krishna, you see, I always say this, that if there is an option of worshiping somebody else other than Krishna, I don't think I will have to worship Krishna because Krishna is so difficult. You know, the story you were sharing about Krishna and Arjuna. So my question is, Krishna, you know that we are humans, we are fallible. So we can make mistakes, we can forget. Sometimes we may not use our intelligence properly. All this we are prone to. So since Krishna, you know, why don't you intervene when there is the need to saving your devotee? Why Krishna does that? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, who is me to answer such a question? It's a beautiful question. And that was why actually I go that route, because when we say that when Krishna is not present, that is when we experience adversaries in our lives, in our experiences. So the question then is, well, we are serving Krishna. And why will Krishna not intervene? We're trying to serve him. We're not perfect, but we're trying. But like Krishna told Uddhava in that story that we shared earlier, if Krishna has to intervene in everything, then we'll no longer be an independent soul. We'll become a robot. So for Krishna to allow us to experience independence, the minute independence, he allows us. So I'm just a witness. I'll fold my hands. But the moment, and that is why it is said that devotional service ultimately is to help us to come to that point that what? Krishna, you are all. Alone, I'm nothing. I am completely surrendered to you. Please take control of everything about my life, my word, my talk, my look, my everything. I don't want to be anything. I've completely surrendered myself to you. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to look. I don't have anything to decide. My so-called intelligence, my so-called exhibition of knowing you is my ignorance of knowing you. I don't want to know you. I don't have the ability. Just like an elephant bow down at his own will, allowing a 2-year-old baby to touch his head at his own free will. Krishna, make me your tool. When we hear these prayers of Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the previous acharyas, and that is why the acharyas have said these prayers to guide us to understand that we are actually nothing. Our so-called intelligence is only given for only one purpose, to surrender to Krishna. Any use of intelligence outside of surrender to Krishna is a misuse. In most cases, like Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas, we are the cause of our own adversaries in life. Because by our so-called intelligence, by our so-called talk, by our so-called emotions, by our so-called body language, we tell Krishna, please stay away first. The story of that Brahmana I was trying to share that time, let me maybe probably touch it, I'll summarize it. There's this Brahmana story that is told about Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, verse number 22. Very famous verse of Bhagavad Gita. That story is built around that, that verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 9. Text number 22. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yes. That's the verse that Brahmana, he said, Lord Krishna, I can understand everything you said in the Gita. He said, but everything you said, and I also believe them, they are true. He said, for you to say, Anaya Sinta Yanto Mam, Ye Jana Pariupa Sate, Tesham Nitya Biyukta Anam, Yoga Shemam Bahamiaham. That word, Yoga Shemam Bahamiaham. That you carry what I lack. Krishna, you are a liar. I believe every other thing, but this one, verse, you lied. And Krishna told the Brahmana, I never told lies in my life. Everything I said is truth. And the Brahmana said, well, if that is the truth, so how is it that whenever I'm in trouble, even though I'm your devotee, I'm surrendered to you, I serve you, you never come to my aid? Krishna said, okay, let us forget the past. From this moment, I want to prove to you that I'm true to my words. Anytime that you're in difficulty, just give me a signal. I will come, even before you're saying anything. And the Brahmana said, okay, no problem. We'll see. I'll catch you in your lies. And the following day, you know, in the ancient times, the Brahmana has only few properties. In most cases, some of them just have their cooking, their danda, their kettle of water. And this Brahmana, he has only one cooking. He doesn't even have two. He has only one. So when he goes out for his ablution in the morning, he goes to the river Jamuna, he bathes, wash it first when he gets inside, and spread it by the riverside, by the side of River Yamuna. And we go inside the water and bathe. And even when he has finished his morning ablution, he will stay in there until the sun rising dries it up, so that when he comes out of the water, he can get something to cover himself. But in that time, in that ancient time, but not like today. Even today, when you go to the bank of River Yamuna, I've heard stories from devotees that they lost things over there if they're careless. So in those times, also very ancient time, there are gundas, there are thugs, rogues who come around and they steal so many things, and they even steal from the brahmanas. And you can imagine someone stealing equipment. So this brahmana, what he does is that he comes close to the edge of the river Jamuna when he spread his clothes, because you know, these rascals, they will come. They will steal whatever clothes they see that is spread on the tree or somewhere far. He said today, this time,
Hare Krishna, Shri Salika Prabhu. It appears you're frozen. Let's wait. I think it's having internet issues.
Don't wait. Be telling us something.
I think so.
No, I don't time, Prabhu.
We actually lost him. He was having issue with his internet connection. We lost him, so let's see if he'll be able to log on back. Yeah. Well, okay, he's back. Shri Salika, please unmute. You are muted. Okay. You are still muted. Check your microphone. I think the microphone you are using is not working. No, it's still not working.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, good. Good. All right.
Sorry, I think I'm on Hare Krishna Africa. I think someone logged in or logged out. So I was logged out automatically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it does happen sometimes.
Yeah, someone logged on the platform, so it did not pay off.
Yeah.
So the Brahmana, as agreed by Lord Krishna and him, okay, Krishna is supposed to come now and then protect his cooking and take it away from these thieves, from the roads. And what is his own bargain, own duty? He was supposed to just remain in the water and say, Krishna, okay, now over to you. But at that moment, the moment he saw it, that fear that used to come to us, naturally, when we are going through situations and we start lying, like Maharaj Yudhishthira, the same thing happened to the Brahmana. And he forget that he told Krishna that he will not leave the water. He will stay there and Krishna do his own work. He ran out of the water, even though he was naked, and he was running after the Kundas. And every few moments, he was thinking, I will catch them, and I will prove to Krishna that he doesn't come and rescue his devotee. Because that was what is in his mind. His own intelligence that he wanted to prove Krishna wrong. He forget that he was supposed to let Krishna do his own work and let Krishna protect him. But because he was focused on, I want to let Krishna know that he's lying. He wanted to defeat Krishna. That's what happens in my life. That's what happened to Maharaj Yudhishthira. He wanted to show Krishna that you are a liar. So he tries to endeavor. Prakite kriya manani gunai kama bibaga. Gunai kama am kara bimudat ma kata amiti ma yate. The living agent think himself is the doer of activities which are carried out by material nature. Foolishly, he ran after the Gundas. And then when he almost catch them, he was thinking, I'm almost catching them now. I'll prove to Krishna he's not protecting me. And Krishna was there laughing at him. And when he was too close to the thieves, they saw that there was no way to run away. They turned back to him. And another misfortune befell him immediately. Because now he said, you are a Brahmana, you want to fight a rogue, a thief. And he raised his hand up to beat the thief, and his hand broke immediately. He has lost his coupon, he has lost his hand. At that moment alone, when he lost his hand, he remembered, Krishna, you are such a wicked person. Why did you do like this? You promised and you never come. Krishna manifested it. So I said it, see you. Why are you just coming now? This rogue has stolen my coupon. And I'm trying to stop them from going in. See, I've broken my hand. And now I'm so misfortunate that I have only one hand to maintain myself. Krishna was laughing. So when your coupon was taken, immediately I saw it. I came, I was running after the rogues. I was going to collect your coupon, but you run after them. The moment you start running after them, you stop me from running because you cannot be running after them, and I'm also running after them. So I have to stay back and watch the drama. So by your running after them, you have stopped me from doing my duty. This is what happens to us in our lives. When advances come, when challenges come, when difficulties come, we forget Krishna. We start thinking, we start quoting philosophy at that time. Krishna says like this in the Bhagavad Gita. We want to prove that we know Krishna at that moment. And if we're not exhibiting this Mayapata Gyan mentality, we become so fearful that we hide. And even though we think that we're not praying, even by our thoughts, we're hiding away. And Krishna doesn't come to you when you're hiding away because he wants you to enjoy your hiding. Krishna is very expert in fulfilling our desires. You want to hide, you say, okay, hide very nicely. And you continue enjoying your suffering. So, Sadhe Prabhu, so the fact is that Krishna knows our limitations and is always there, ready to assist us, to save us, to give us protection, to provide for what we lack, to preserve what we have. But the challenge is our thinking, our thoughts, our actions, our words, the way we respond to things. It's what blocks Krishna's presence. And when Krishna is not present there, suffering is come naturally. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much as usual. I have a follow-up question, but I am also having the instinctive feeling that what I want to ask is going to be asked by Govinda Prabhu. Govinda Prabhu, please unmute and ask your question. He's a mystic man.
Hare Krishna.
Let me sit properly.
Prabhupada Japati, sit properly.
Hare Krishna, devotees, SALIKA Prabhu, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
This is a food for thoughts. Very wonderful lecture, very penetrating. Thank you very much. But I would like you to help me clarify this point. You see, in all this, the lecture you're giving us today is you are gearing us towards remembering Krishna and not to forget him under all circumstances.
Sure.
Thank you very much. I want you to help me understand this point. You are making so many references towards as to why sometimes devotees suffer because in a situation where we have difficulty, we usually don't remember Krishna. And it's giving me so much realization. You know, when we are in difficulty and we start blaming people, blaming here and there, then what is going to happen at the point of death? How are we going to remember Krishna at that point? And so you are saying that we should remember Krishna under all circumstances. Now, here's the question. When this pandemic started, in the middle of the pandemic, the devotees in Mayapur gathered together and to invoke the presence of Krishna, the presence of Lord Shimadev for help. And right after that, some devotees started dying right from there. They tried to remember Krishna. They remembered Krishna at that time. But the devotees still died. Krishna did not show up. And we also see that most of the time we pray, and prayer means remembering Krishna. But we don't get what we prayed for. And as a result of that, many people become so disappointed, and some even change their faith. Especially our brothers Christians, you know, they jump from one church to another because they think God is not here. If he's here, how come I'm praying to him all this time and he will not answer me? So they try to remember Krishna at that point, that situation, but still they don't get any results. So how do you balance that? to the today lecture you are giving us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a very deep, thoughtful question, Prabhu. And I appreciate you for asking that question, because it allows us to reflect a little bit more on the subject matter. Because we see that sometimes, and you give a very nice example. I remember when COVID started in February of 2020, when this lockdown was about starting, I wrote an article and I call it, "What if COVID is a messenger of God?" And why was I writing that message that time? I think I sent that to the United Nations then. Was because when the situation comes, what is expected of us as a devotee is to remember Krishna, and immediately the difficulties will go away. We call Krishna. But then the question is that here in Mayapur, not just or in Vrindavan, which is the holy land of Krishna, devotees prayed, but the death rate increases. So what has happened? Let us look at I will come back to the second aspect of your question, which is dealing with how do we remember Krishna in difficulties. But let us look at why situation doesn't subside when we seemingly even remember to pray. Let us look at the 10 offenses against the holy name of the Lord. Number 8 tells us what? To consider the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as one of the auspicious and ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities or Kamakanda. Let us reflect on that offense. And let us look at how we pray. Because when we pray and consider the yagya, the chanting, as a sacrifice for mitigating problem, is different from when we chant the prayers to glorify the Lord. Because, like I said, when I was writing the article, what I was looking at that moment was not asking Krishna to remove problems. I was not asking Krishna to take away difficulties. What I was reflecting at that time was that, oh, Krishna, you have manifested in this form. What is it to be learned? What is it to be done in this situation? We can chant, we can pray in the Kamakanda mentality, and we think we are chanting the name of Krishna. Some benefit will come, but we won't get Krishna himself come. We will be dealing with material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that those who are my pure devotees, they are under my divine energy. And you cannot be under divine energy of Krishna and suffer. So when even we pray, and that's why Srila Prabhupada narrated to us, explained to us in several places, that a devotee may be engaged in chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he may be engaged in devotional service, but if his mind is geared towards fruitive results, asking for some result, he is engaging in Kama Kanda or Kama Yoga. And when the devotee is engaging in activities and his mind is geared towards exhibiting knowledge, he's engaging in Jnana Yoga. When he's engaging in devotional activities, deity worship, any activities in devotional service, and his mood is geared towards pleasing the Supreme Personality of God, is acting in back. So when the devotees are praying and those situations are happening, I can tell you from my realization, I'm not a Mahabhagavad. I may not be saying the perfect thing, but I'm repeating the word of the Acharyas that wherever there is Krishna, like I started the lecture with, and Sanjaya said, wherever there is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, wherever there is Arjuna, there can never be adversaries. then the question then would be that, okay, do we want to say that there are no pure devotees at all? The reality is that devotees might be there, but the mood in which we pray determines the kind of result we get. That is one angle to look at it. But before I leave that point, there could be another observation to it. When we engage in Krishna consciousness, Krishna never promises us that when you take to devotional service, I will protect your material body. Most often, we forget this fact. Krishna doesn't promise, I will protect your material body. Krishna said, Arjuna, declare boldly, my devotee will never be vanquished. He's talking about the living entity, spirit, soul, not the body. So many of the devotees that are living using COVID-19 as an excuse, we cannot explain it unless we go to understand Krishna's mind. How Krishna is using this COVID-19 to take those who are due to leave this body, those who have become perfected in their practice, those who need another body to be able to practice devotional service in a different way. Krishna is using this as an accelerated opportunity to take them out of the sin. So it is not naturally because sins happen adversely, then we start thinking that, oh, Krishna is not answering our prayers. Krishna is answering the prayer. As a result of Krishna answering the prayers, those who are ready to go, Krishna takes them away immediately using that opportunity. And the other aspect I explained first is that it could be that we are praying in the mood of karma kanda and Krishna will not listen to it because Krishna is not interested. Krishna is only interested in that. And to answer your second part of the question, how can we remember Krishna? How can we be sure we are remembering Krishna when these adversaries or situations are happening? In the famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, verse number 26, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna very nicely, in the one of my favorite verse, Mamchayovya bicharena bhakti yojena sevate saguna samahatyacham brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. If we consistently chant, the real problem we face is as a result of the coverings of the three modes of material nature. But by this process of practicing, as given by the acharyas, we may not experience it. And I will share these different stages of devotional realization again, which I shared some times back in one lecture here. In every individual devotee's life, in fact, I use these same principles also when I'm teaching the secular world, when I'm doing capacity building in different platforms. I use these same 4 principles, and devotees should take heart to this. I cannot go into the elaborate aspect of the details I use in that seminar package, but I'll give the 4 principles. In every endeavor in life, and now focusing on devotional service, we go through 4 stages in life. In our endeavor to become a devotee, the first stage is what is called effortless failure. When you come to devotional service, when we hear that you have to follow the 4 regulative principles, chant the 16 rounds of Maha Mantra, we keep on trying and we find that we cannot do it. Even when we wanted to do it, it is called the stage of effortless failure. Even though whether we desire or we don't desire, we just find ourselves, whatever we do, we just find we cannot do what we're supposed to be doing. And there are principles to guide us to go beyond that stage. Srila Rupa Goswami, in the nectar of devotion, he mentioned those 3 principles that will take us from the effortless failure to the second stage. He mentioned 3 things: determination, perseverance, and tolerance. Those 3 things, if we use those principles in tackling that effortless failure, in other words, we continuously fail, but we're not bothered about that because we are determined, because we are tolerating, because we are enthusiastic. We will go beyond the effortless failure stage, and we'll come to the next stage that is described as struggle and failure stage. That stage is when Some days we'll chant very nicely. In fact, we'll be we're thinking that we have become a pure devotee. We'll be experiencing some bhava. We'll be experiencing some bliss when we're chanting the holy name. And all of a sudden, sometimes we just start feeling that things are going wrong again. It is called a stage of struggle and failure. We succeed one day, we fail one day, we succeed one day. But a devotee also, there are 3 principles also I always give into that. There are 3 keys that will take us away from that stage also. Taking the leverage from the three first principles, then what happens is that in this second stage of struggle and failure, the key, number 1 key we use there is what? Associating with those who are engaging in such activities. Taking association. We have applied the first 3 principles. There are 3 principles in this one also. When we start associating with the right kind of person, taking the right kind of medicine, staying in the right kind of environment, those 3 principles will catapult us, will shoot us from struggle and failure to what is called struggle and success. And when we get to struggle and success, what will you experience? We start experiencing that out of 7 days in a week, 5 days, we are blissful in our chanting. 1 or 2 days in the week, we find difficulties. But we start seeing that our successes in devotional service is getting greater. We are having less and less difficulties in chanting. We have less and less difficulty in deity worship. We have less and less difficulty in eating prasadam in the right consciousness. It is called the stage of struggle and success. And when we continue in that, there's also another 3 principles that you need to apply at that stage also. When you apply those 3 other principles, what happens next is that you come to the stage which is called effortless success. From effortless failure at the bottom level, you come to the 4th level principle, effortless success. At this time, this is the stage of a pure devotee. When you come to that stage, you no longer struggle in devotional service. Any day, anytime you wake up, you just find yourself chanting the holy name. And when you get to that stage, that is when you said to have come into Krishna consciousness. That is when you have joined Krishna consciousness. That is when you start practicing Krishna consciousness. And when you start practicing Krishna consciousness in that effortless failure, I tell you, my brother, your entrance into the kingdom of God is by the corner. And at that time, you start exhibiting different qualities of bhakti. And even an external person will start seeing this person is advancing. Not only you that you'll be experiencing at that time, somebody else will be experiencing it. They will be telling you, this devotee is advancing. Hare Krishna. Let me stop here so that I don't take long. You are commended for all of that questions. I hope I did answer your question already.
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Shriman Varaha Prabhu, please unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
My respectful greetings to everybody, platform. And Salika Prabhu, thank you very much. I enjoy your class very much today.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for that. Very good realizations and good principles to apply. I have a question, and that is surrendering to Krishna. Surrendering to Krishna, absolutely, completely. Krishna, use me as your tool, like you said. And that's so, that of course, it's understandable. But then when you say that Krishna is just witnessing, and our mistake is that oftentimes we depend on our own efforts. We forget Krishna. I have a little problem with that. If we depend solely on Krishna, as it is advised, naturally nice, at what point we distinguish, inaction from complete surrender? Because Krishna actually fulfills our desires.
Sure.
And if you don't desire to do anything, and you're just saying, Krishna, you do it, I'm just there, then why did Krishna give us the ability to desire? If we don't desire anything, we're just waiting, Krishna, use me as your tool. It's like we have no role to play in making things to happen. So I want you to, explain that. At what point our waiting on Krishna becomes an inaction? And at what point we are actually not helping Krishna because we are not desiring for Krishna to fulfill his own part also. So please just explain that.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. This is a very beautiful question. And this is why it's good to associate with senior devotees, because only a devotee can think the way you think and then ask this kind of this beautiful question. And then when we want to explain bhakti in terms of fully surrender to the Lord and not become inactive, we can only relate to one great acharyas of ours. There are so many, there are ocean of them. But let us look at Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's life. And he sang a very beautiful song. My dear Lord, whatever I have, my mind, the center of all my material necessities, my home, my body, whatever I have in connection with this body, I surrender them to you. In the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 4th canto, chapter 17, verse number 30, purport, Srila Prabhupada, he referenced this statement. How do we completely surrender everything? Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur is a perfect example of our modern day experience as a sadhaka. We've read stories of 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years, 2,000 years ago. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur is just hundreds of years back. And he translated that into, thank you very much for bringing it out. In the purport, when he scrolled the purport, you see where Prabhupada is quoting that in the purport there. It's talking about full surrender. This is what Prabhupada said. So does it mean that when Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when he surrenders everything like this, he's not talking, he said the center of all my material activities, all. So how do we do this in the practical sense? How do we express this in our day-to-day life? We have to eat, we have to bathe, we have to do these basic things. We have to take care of families. Then the question is, how did Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur did it? Lord Krishna told us in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi pranipatena paripasnena yasevaya upadesyanti te gyanam gyaninam tattva dakshina. That is why we have the acharyas. You just approach them. And we don't have to go far out. When we study the life of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, that's why anyone who wants to be successful in our modern times as a devotee, I beg of you, if you have not studied 2 books, I beg you, go back and study those 2 books. I'm not saying read it. Study those 2 books. If you ever desire to be successful in Bhakti in our modern times, and those 2 books is Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita and Srila Bhakti Vinod, the 7th Goswami. Those books give chronological life of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, how he does everything. His ability to be able to remember Krishna before he eats, before he talk, before he give judgment, before he relates, before he does everything. And Srila Prabhupada, the Lamrita, showed us 50 years ago how Srila Prabhupada directly, Srila Prabhupada did not act as a Nitya Siddha when he was acting in the household life. Although he was a Nitya Siddha, he was acting like just an ordinary person. This is just stories of 150 years ago. Srila Prabhupada was day-to-day life. And one thing, may all glories be to His Holiness, Swarup Goswami. That devotee of Srila Prabhupada is not an ordinary person. I don't know whatever his position is, but I can tell you, this personality came down with Srila Prabhupada. Is not a devotee that joined ISKCON in US. It takes only someone who has come alongside a prearranged activity to write that Lamrita of Srila Prabhupada. For him to be able to, he chronologically, he depicted different moments of Srila Prabhupada. He went as far as telling us what Prabhupada thinks at different times, how he thinks about particular situation. There's no better practical book for us in devotional service more than these two books. If I have any inspiration, if I have any realization, my secret and my strength lies in struggling, consistently reminding myself by reading and rereading these two books that are available to us. So being completely surrendered does not mean that we will not act, but we will act where Krishna is the center, because the cause of the matter is that Krishna must be in the center. And how Krishna will be the center of activity is depicted already by our chariots. We don't need to struggle. We don't need to crack our brain. What do we eat? What should we eat? Prashadam. Where should we go to? Where devotees are. Who should we talk to? One who is a devotee. Okay, we are preachers. We depict the mood of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't come to America and said, I want to preach to the Americans. No. Srila Prabhupada said, I'm just a doll. I don't even know what to say. These people, their mentality, their life, I don't even know how to approach them. You, Lord Krishna, you are the musician. Make me dance. Make me dance. Make me dance. In his word, in his action, he did all of that. And the result is manifested before all of us. We can see it. When Srila Prabhupada was going to the Thompson Square, Srila Saswarup Das Goswami, he depicted in that part of the Prabhupada Lamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami, oh, may God bless this devotee of Srila Prabhupada. I can't thank him enough. He was telling us how Prabhupada was thinking. Prabhupada was not thinking when he was going to Thompson Square that my movement will become explosion when he go there. He said, I'm going there. I just want to go and try. Following the order of my spiritual master, if he wished, the people will hear. Prabhupada told so heavy that unless you are trained, you can't even hear everything he's saying. Sometimes when I look at the transcript of Srila Prabhupada, I wonder how these devotees are able to capture everything. It's more than a miracle. And let us come closer. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Swami, Stephen Rosen, Satyarat Prabhu, he wrote about our Gurudev, lotus, black lotus. And let us forget about the book for a moment. Let us look at it. Most of us who are senior devotees, at least who have stayed 25 years, 30 years in this movement, had the opportunity to associate directly with Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And then just let us take for a moment, let us look at the life of Bhaktivedanta Swami and reflect and see whether it is difficult to give everything to Krishna. Not only he was living that life, he will even tell it to us. He will tell us what he was doing when he's in the plane. The moment he lands in the country, he will start narrating how he spent his time. One unique thing about Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj books, all of his books, when you study, sometimes let us ask ourselves, how did Bhaktivedanta Maharaj have so many books written? They were simply his realizations. And the few times that I had opportunities to associate with that great personality, when he's eating, when he's talking, when he addresses devotee, everything about him. One unique thing about Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj is that he never speaks saying I at any time. I never had him use the word I at any time when he speaks. When he's giving lectures, when he even speaking publicly, that famous lecture, that explosion that he did at that program with Nelson Mandela in South Africa, some of us must have listened to this clip many times. When you see the way he was speaking there, and he was telling, he constantly using we, because he wasn't alone. He was always with Krishna. And it is possible in our present day life. That does not mean that adversities will not come, but Krishna will always be there. So my response to this, Prabhu, please, if there are mistakes I've made in the course of answering this question, please, you might kindly correct me. For my realization, my understanding is that surrender totally has nothing to do with inaction. Inaction is ignorance, is foolishness. Total surrender is knowledge. And that knowledge is manifested in how we act, how we make our choices, how we make our decisions, how we talk, how we respond to things. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Salika Prabhu.
Well, I have a follow-up.
Okay, please do that.
Of course, I'm sorry, I missed most part of the explanation, but I consider that you've done justice. Some people came, which I could not refuse. So I just finished with them. The second part of the question is still on the point of surrender and desire. So in the story of Mahabharata, Yudhishthira, again, when the war started, I want to see how you interpret this. When the war started, Yudhishthira did not ask Krishna for anything. So do we say that is surrender? Then after the war, Krishna met a Brahmana on the way, a friend, an old friend from school. And the old friend was criticizing Krishna. Why did you allow this massacre to happen? If it is to make Dharma to reign, you could do that just without causing so much bloodshed. No massacre. And Krishna said, yes, you're right. But Yudhishthira did not ask me. If Yudhishthira had asked me, just in one day, the whole battle will be over. So again, we again criticizing, Krishna again criticized Yudhishthira here for not desiring, for not expressing the desire. So Krishna again blamed Yudhishthira just as he was blamed for, of course, it's understandable during the game of dice. But this time around, Krishna said, if Yudhishthira just asked me, then the whole world would have been done with in one day. Exactly. So again and again, aren't we again saying that we have a role to play in desiring? In desiring what we want based, of course, on proper choice, proper intelligence. But if we don't ask Krishna, And if we don't desire it, and we just say, well, Krishna, I'm surrender. Like, oh, this was a good example of surrender stuff. But Krishna again and again said, but he did not desire, he did not express the desire for this. That's why I did not intervene. So I want you to explain that.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Actually, you have given light to the question you asked. I didn't capture something though. You said in the beginning of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, what did you say at that point? I didn't get that part.
Krishna did not expressively ask Krishna to put an end to the war, or that he wanted Krishna to make him king without war. He did not ask for that.
Yeah.
So he just surrendered to whatever was happening. And when the Brahmana criticized Krishna for allowing such massacre to take place, Krishna said, yes, I could have done it, but Yudhishthira did not ask me. He did not express the desire that, it could just, I should make him the king without, bloodshed. He said, I would have done it. That's very day.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. In the question,
where is the point? Where's our role? Desiring.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhu. In the question that you would ask, it's a beautiful question, but the answer is already given inside of it, in the narration that you give. In that devotional service is not inactive. It's not inactivity. Surrender does not mean inaction. In chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, I'm trying to remember the verse purport. Prabhupada made explanation in one of those purports there. Devotional service is not an inactive process. Devotional service is an active activities. When we say bhakti, Lord Krishna says in 934, Mamana Bhava Ma Bhakta Mam Yaji Mam Namaskuru is given directly what should be done. So surrender and desire has nothing to clash. They are two separate things. Surrender means desiring in the way or joining our desire with the desire of Krishna. So when we say total surrender means acting, desiring, speaking, engaging all activity for the purpose that the independence which we use for desiring is given. And I think that is SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st Canto, chapter 19. If we look at text number, I hope I'm right with this. 1st Canto, chapter 19, text number 11, if I'm not mistaken. I think that is not the verse. Chapter 19, there's a verse. I can't remember the verse off head now. I think it's not the verse. I'll remember in the course of the discussion that verse, in the 1st Canto, it is explained that ultimately, and that same point that is expressed in that verse is what is given in chapter 15, verse number 15 of Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna is the purpose of everything. Everything is coming from him. Is the purpose of everything, and everything is for his pleasure. So when we are given a tool, just like a gross example is this. If I have a farmland, I employ a farmer. A farmer wants to earn money. That is why he's working as a farmer. And I said, farm this farm for me and plant cassava or yam. And the farmer, because he's an expert farmer, he comes to the land. And because he desires to be successful in his farming endeavor, he thinks that, okay, the best thing for me to farm here is corn. not yam, and he decides to plant corn, even though that may be, to his knowledge, the best thing to do, for the fact that he has not farmed what the owner of the land desires him to farm, he has failed in his duty as a farmer. In the same way, when Lord Krishna gave us intelligence, when he gave us independence, the purpose of the independence is to know Krishna, is to serve Krishna. So if we decide to use the tool that is given for us for a purpose, for another purpose, we have been given the opportunity to use, but our using it rightly or wrongly is on us. So surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not in any way interfere with our independence to desire. It only depends on how we use that independence that determines what we experience. Just like the example of the farmer. The farmer is thinking based on his own knowledge and farming something different from the owner of the land and the owner of the farm produce that has been given, has the independence to decide to use the tool. But the tool was meant for a purpose. So his desire or his choice of farming has not been taken away. But whether he uses it to please the owner of the land or uses it to please what he thinks is the best is what makes the difference. And that is the thin gap in between surrender and not being surrendered to Krishna. To surrender to Krishna simply means that we have an independence, we have the choice, we have the ability to desire what we want. We have been given that right. And when we desire in such a way for our own sensual pleasure, then we take the consequences of that. But when using the same example of the farmer, if the farmer had farmed the yam or cocoa yam that Krishna or the owner of the farmer asked him to do, and it does not produce, that is the problem of the owner of the land, because the farmer has done what he's been given the choice or the ability to make a choice. So that is what happens within entity when we misuse this independence for what we think is the best thing based on the covering of the three modes of material nature. Then we are said to be lacking in surrender. Then we go through the experience of not surrendering to Krishna. But surrendering completely means that the farmer, even whether he thinks it is the right thing to plant or it's not the right thing to plant, he goes ahead and plant what has been given by the person who has given him the opportunity to make a choice or desire. So taking it back to the story that was narrated, Maharaj Yudhishthira had the choice to tell Krishna, my dear Lord, as a surrendered devotee, I pray to you, I want a kingdom filled with all righteousness without war. And Krishna will fulfill that. But he didn't ask. So he follows the course of his mind. And the result is what he experiences. We all see in the manifestation of the drama of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I don't know whether I did justice to that question, but you can give some corrections if I've made a mistake.
No, I want you to answer other people because there are other hands up. But I thank you for your answers. But just 2 points. But I don't need comments. I want you to answer others. But just 2 comments. One is think about using initiative. From your example, is it not like killing initiative? I'm not asking for answer. I want you to just think about it. And the second one is that even though Yudhishthira was like a surrendered soul, and he just allowed the course of things to happen, at the end of the world, it was full of regrets. So again, Krishna in his answer to the Brahmana, if he had asked me, there would not have been bloodshed. If he had desired it, there would not have been bloodshed. So again, I just want you to meditate on that, that the role of desire is very important. And the initiative, don't think that surrender kills initiative. So just a comment. I don't want to answer. Please let other people ask questions.
Thank you very much.
Hare
I think,
Krishna. Thank you.
Chaitanya
Thank
Prema has been up, hands up has been up.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Srimad Bharata Prabhu. I was thinking that Govinda was going to ask the question I had, but Srimad Bharata asked the question I had. So thank you, Srimad Bharata Prabhu and Salika Prabhu. Thank you too. Well, His Grace Chaitanya Prema Prabhu, thanks for your patience, and you may unmute and go ahead to speak.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Chaitanya Prema is our teacher, so
Yeah, Hare
I'm
Krishna.
sure it's going to chastise me. For
Actually,
some errors.
my hands have been up and they are now paining me.
Yes, we are sorry.
It's now paining me. So, in the process, as I meditate on the pain, I've forgotten everything.
See, we forgot. We thought that you are Krishna. Krishna lifted the whole Govardhan. So we thought being his devotee, you're not going to get tired. Hare Krishna, go ahead, Prabhu.
Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I just wanted to add a little that actually in the previous questions and answers, that you cannot, Krishna is the cause of everything. Anything that is happening here is a smaller picture within the bigger picture in which Krishna is the fountainhead. So, Yudhishthira not remembering to consult with Krishna or all other similar things are masterminded by Krishna himself. Understand? Krishna himself influenced Yudhishthira to forget at that point because he has a bigger purpose to fulfill, and the battle of Kurukshetra must be fought, and they have to be put in that mood. That is the work of Yoga Maya, forming the background for Krishna's pastime. So that is it. It's not a material situation. Yudhishthira was not under the influence of Mahamaya. He was under the influence of Yoga Maya. So that is the point I wanted to make. And concerning Bharata Prabhu's input or questions, but somebody is distracting me here. A little boy is distracting me here. So for that one, I will say that yes, it is true. We have to make efforts. We have to make efforts. We have a word over endeavoring in our nectar of devotion, over endeavoring. Endeavor must be there. It's accepted. But over endeavoring is not accepted. So at what point can our activities be considered over endeavoring? It is the point whereby our endeavors do not allow us to be able to practice our daily sadhana as sadhakas. So I'm not talking of liberated souls. The sadhakas, to the extent that our activities do not allow us to do our sadhana, chanting our rounds, doing our daily. To that degree, or at that point, our activities become over endeavoring. You see? But for liberated souls, whatever they do is under the influence of Krishna's internal energy. So we should not qualify or quantify it. Even Yudhishthira Maharaj's activities, his forgetfulness, is not consulting with Krishna. All those are masterminded by Krishna. You don't know Krishna. Krishna is the supreme mystic. He sits there, he makes everything to happen, and he stays aloof as if he's not the one. So know this about Krishna. Now Yogeshwara you deal with. So that is the situation. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Srimad Chaitanya Prabhu. He's our teacher. So he's bringing the understanding in every text of the scriptures. There are two ways to look at it. And I think that is what he's trying to tell us here. But he has taught us. So I'll share some of what he's trying to say, which he did not say. When any scriptures text we're looking at, there are two aspects of angles we should look at it from. There is what is called application, and there is the understanding. Chaitanya Prema is talking about the understanding. The understanding is that everything, aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarva prabhatate. Iti mato bajanti mam udabava samavita. Everything is emanating from Krishna. Everything is happening by Krishna's will. That is the understanding of any scriptural text. But for application is what I was speaking on. In application of the understanding of the scriptures, Yudhishthira Maharaj is not a Nitya Bada like me and you. They are liberated souls. But because he's acting not because he's acting for acting's sake, he's acting so that we can reflect, we can apply that in our life. So that is why when I speak, I want to emphasize more on the area of the application. So application of the activities of Maharaj Yudhishthira is what we are discussing, that Maharaj Yudhishthira, and that's what Krishna actually wants us to learn, because he said, Paritena sadhuna vinaya duskritam dharma samstapanata sambhavami juge. Dharma samstapanata, yeah. He's coming to teach. And what is Krishna coming to teach? Krishna is coming to teach us how, just like a teacher that takes the hand of the student and writes. The teacher is not is learning how to write, but is teaching the student out by holding the student hand how to write. So when Lord Krishna and his associates, when they come to the material world, the enacted past tense, Maharaj Yudhishthira is not wrong, because he is acting under the influence of the Yoga Maya. That is the understanding. But the application of it is that in our own situation, we are not Maharaj Yudhishthira. We are not Nitya Siddhas. We are Nitya Badas. We are conditioned soul. And the application of those teachings or drama of the Lord and his associates is that we should understand. And that is why the Lord puts them under that Yoga Maya, because in these normal circumstances, Maharaj Yudhishthira will have asked the right question at the right time. But based on the influence of Yoga Maya, is made to forget so that it can act in such a way that it can teach us that we should act in a particular way when we are facing a particular situation. So the application of the line of thinking that we're sharing is that if we have the right to desire, surrender does not mean inaction or being inactive. Surrender means actually full activities. And the Prabhupada emphasized that in so many places, that the monists, they try to stop all activities, but it's not possible. Because why? The living entities by nature is always active. That is our nature. So we must act. But in acting, because we are not this material body, we are spirit soul, which is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, beginning of spiritual thoughts, we should constantly understand that we're not this physical material body. This material body and all its ingredients that is added to it is given for a purpose. So in our choice, just like a mother buys a biro for the child to write, giving the child, but the child can use the choice that he has to take that biro and write a gambling numbers and use it for gambling. It is his choice. And for the fact that he chooses to use it to write something nonsensical, he will get the result of being nonsensical. But the fact that the mother is giving him the choice does not take, or is asking him to write in a particular way, does not take away his initiative, his mood of surrender, or whatever that is given to him. He has the full independence to use that. But he must also put at the back of his mind that in using this initiative, in using this desire, in using these tools, it is meant for a particular purpose. Otherwise, then we'll be at par with Krishna. We have initiative, so we can do as we like. That is what it will mean at that level. But if we know that, yes, we have independence, but this independence is dependent on Krishna, is dependent on Krishna's independence, then we will understand this point. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Salika Prabhu. And the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Thank you all for your time, your patience, and your love to hearing SRIMAD Bhagavatam Katha. What I can say is that I don't know whatever I did in my previous life, and in fact in this present life, that I am somehow or other blessed to have the opportunity to hear in SRIMAD Bhagavatam every day from many wonderful devotees. So thank you all. Salika Prabhu, thank you. SRIMAD Bhagavatam Prabhu, thank you for your questions. Govinda Prabhu, Chaitanya Prema. Like what Chaitanya Prema Prabhu just said, I think helps answer my questions, because Krishna, even though Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he can do and undo whatever he wants, but sometimes he acts in a very political manner. He is now blaming Yudhishthira for not asking him, I want this, I want that. Arjuna told him, I don't want to fight. Now he's telling him fight, So you can't understand Krishna. you never win. So we just take it as it is. Thank you all. So at this point, Salika Prabhu, if you have anything to conclude on, otherwise we'll bring the class to a close.
Yeah, I think it's been beautiful once. I thank all the people for giving me this opportunity. Maybe I just end the class by quoting another one beautiful verse which relates to this. Krishna says in 1854 that it's giving us an indication when we have come to the really understanding. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasushati Nakangishati Samasaveshi Bhuktishi Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. That what? That when we come to understand Krishna, the next thing is that we'll just naturally surrender. Then our initiative, our desire, our everything will be merged with the desire of Krishna. So we don't see our desire different from Krishna's being different. In fact, when we desire for Krishna, we see it as our choice of desire, not that it's something separate. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So at this point, we ask all the devotees to kindly unmute, and then we chant big Hare Krishna to express our appreciation to our speaker and all the devotees present. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Ram, Hare
Hare.